Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Hubbard, and today we're going to be talking about 3 books that use magic in real-world settings. The first is by Michael Scott. It is The Alchemist. This is the first in the series The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, and I'm sure some of you have probably heard of Nicholas Flamel before, if for no other reason than because he is friends with Albus Dumbledore. But aside from that, you probably also know that he had a magic book called the Book of Abraham, and that he used this book to create the Philosopher's Stone, which could turn ordinary metals into gold, and could create the Elixir of Life, which granted Nicholas and his wife Perenelle virtual immortality. But did you also know that Nicholas Flamel was a real person? Historical records show us that he really was born in Paris in 1330. He really did marry a woman named Perenelle, and he really did have a book that he referred to as the Book of Abraham. And then he died in 1418. But did he? When grave robbers went to inspect the tombs of the Flamels, they were astonished to find that both tombs were empty. So whatever happened to the Flamels in their particular book of magic? History doesn't know. But in modern-day San Francisco, 15-year-old twins Josh and Sophie Newman are about to find out. When Dr. John Dee wreaks havoc on Nicholas's bookshop, where Josh happens to be working for the summer, Josh and Sophie find themselves right in the middle of a centuries-old feud. Magic is real. Historical figures are immortal in the very literal sense, and nothing is as it seems. To top it off, not only can Josh and Sophie learn and perform extraordinary magic themselves, they are also the subject of a prophecy and may very well hold the key to either the destruction or salvation of the world as we know it. And when Perenelle gets captured, they only have Nick to guide them, but can they really trust this peculiar man known as the Alchemist? Again, this is The Alchemist by Michael Scott. One really cool thing about the books in this series is that Michael Scott always puts an author's note in the back that is it's always very interesting because it talks about the historical background of the books and the myths and legends that inspired him to write certain characters into the books or certain events. Like, for example, this here in this author's note is a picture of Nicholas Flamel's house. So it's always interesting reading. One of my favorite things about this series is that other than Josh and Sophie themselves, every person, every place in this story, not just this book, but this entire series, comes from either historical documents or existing mythologies. So not only do you have an amazing set of stories here from Michael Scott, but you also have an incredible historical and mythological backstory behind these novels that are just as interesting and just as exciting as the story that they inspired Michael Scott to create. So check it out. It is definitely worth it. All right, the next book that we're going to talk about is The Lost Hero by Riordan. Have you ever had a bad day? A day when nothing seems to go right and you couldn't remember anything? Jason is definitely having one of those days. He wakes up on a bus, on a field trip to he doesn't know where, with a school that he is not familiar with a best friend and a girlfriend that he has never seen before in his life. And that's before he got struck by lightning. But it's not all bad. As it turns out, his friend Leo is actually kind of funny, and his girlfriend Piper is seriously pretty and majorly brave. And when Piper gets thrown off a sky bridge over the Grand Canyon, Jason jumps off to save her and discovers that he can fly, and that one of his parents is a not-so-mythological Greek god. Not an entirely bad day. But if Jason is Greek, why does he feel so out of place at Camp Half-Blood? And why does he only know the Roman names of things? And why does he speak Latin instead of ancient Greek? Jason doesn't know. He can't remember. But he better figure it out, and he better figure it out fast, because his next quest is about to start, and they have a very strict deadline. Again, that's The Lost Hero by Riordan. This book is the first in the Heroes of Olympus series, so if you liked Percy Jackson and the Olympians, this book is in that same vein. It's not exactly a continuation of that story, but it does pick up after that series has ended. And while Percy himself doesn't make an appearance in this book, you do see a lot of old faces and old friends from Camp Half-Blood, and there's a lot of amazing new characters as well. Plus, they go a little bit further into the mythology than they did in the Olympians series. So, Heroes of Olympus, awesome series. Lost Hero, awesome book. All right. Lastly, we're going to talk about The Warrior Heir by Cinda Williams Chima. This book is about Jack Swift. Jack is just an ordinary Ohio teen. He goes to school, he does his homework, he hangs out with his friends, he plays soccer. The only really interesting thing about Jack is that he almost died as a baby, and now he has to take heart medicine every single day. And let's face it, that's really not that interesting. Unfortunately for Mr. Jack Swift, his life is about to get a lot more interesting than he ever bargained for. One day he forgets to take his medicine, and he feels amazing. Instead of feeling sick, he feels strong. He's fast. It's better than he's ever felt in his entire life. He goes to soccer tryouts, and there is an unexpected and surprising event that happens during the tryouts that prompts an unexpected visit from his Aunt Linda. But while there, Linda explains the secret behind Jack's life-saving surgery as a baby and why he's had to take the medication every day for the rest of his life since. Turns out, Jack isn't just an ordinary kid. Jack is a warrior, a rare and exceedingly strong and capable fighter for the wizarding world. And Jack's not just any warrior. He is the only current member of that magical guild, which makes him a very, very important pawn in wizard politics. Right now, representatives from both of the major feuding wizard houses, the White Rose and the Red Rose, are hunting for Jack, hoping to be able to use him as a player in the political tournaments known as the Game. But even if Jack can evade capture and stay away from the hands of the White and the Red Rose, this is one game that Jack can't even hope to win. Again, that's The Warrior Heir by Cinda Williams Chima. And this book also has its roots in history. The debates and the feuding between the wizard family starts with the War of the Roses in European history. So I definitely recommend that you read up on that. There's a brief little history of it here in this story, and you don't really need to know about it to enjoy this book because it's amazing and it is entirely standalone. But it's just another good example about how existing histories and existing mythologies make really, really good stories. That fantasy is not just about dragons and elves and fairies and things like that, but there are amazing stories that are right in front of us. Plus, if you're interested in these stories, read into their backstories, see what inspired them. You might just learn something really interesting. So I hope you enjoy these books as much as I do. Thanks.